I was always one of these. When I was in high school, I think what helped me as far as making the transition into the Air Force, I was one of these girls that the guys would always think of as their friend. I wasn't like the prom queen or the cheerleader type that, guys just wanted to date or whatever. I was more like, I was kind of a nerdy sort of, I tend to run around with my hair cut short and, just wear nerdy clothes and just things like that. So I wound up hanging out with guys who were more like me, So I was even like into playing Dungeons and Dragons for a while because, those are my people. I was hanging out with them. So, we would just play and I would be just like, they would just kind of treat me like a guy. So I kind of got used to this sort of being the girl with the guys who wasn't really the girl, and so I think that helped when I was in the Air Force and the guys were like trying to push my buttons and everything. And I would just be like, whatever. This is just like high school. But yeah, I know for a lot of there were a lot of women that I worked with that didn't, it was rough for them. If you're too pretty, then they would think, that they could hit on you and stuff like that. Or, if you were like, if there was anything about the way you looked that they wanted to pick on, they probably would. But I think I just kind of fell like right into sort of a happy middle of not being too good looking, but not being too weird looking either. It's just sort of like I just kind of right through the middle of everything without really getting a lot of trouble. And I think I didn't realize I really became aware of how that worked when I went to Italy because we got to that was like the prize job. We had this temporary duty assignment that we would get in Sicily, and it was to service the planes that were flying through there to go on to like farther points because they'd have to stop in, refuel, and get things checked and stuff like that. So everybody wanted that job. It was 2 whole months. The money was great because you would actually get extra money for being away. And so I was out there, and the guys that I worked with were pretty much treating me the way I always, I was used to. But then I would go out into town, and it was the Italians who kept reminding me that I was a girl, because I think it's the red hair and everything was kind of a giveaway. So they'd want to talk to me, they want to practice their English with me and take me out for a drink and this or that. So these guys were like walking up to me in this little town we were staying in, and oh, to Americana, I speak English. Yeah, let's talk. Okay. It's like, so yeah, it was kind of a funny thing, it's because it's like I would just walk around really not even thinking about like how people would perceive me, and then these guys would remind me that it's not always what you think it is. So,
So,
but it was a fun trip. We had a good time.
now, like, you seem to have like a really good look on like the whole situation, especially for being a woman. Did you ever have like any problems with either the male on crew or just being felt all really different or like an outcast from the other guys, or was that just like no problem for you?
Well, I mean, there were times, especially when I first got there and they didn't know me and I didn't know them. And I think there was a sense of like they were kind of trying to figure out what kind of person I really was. And so that's why I think there were, especially at the beginning, there was a lot of telling of dirty jokes and making of comments about, about people. And, there, for all I know, there might have been, there's no telling what might have been said behind my back, but I never found out. So that's a relief. But I mean, that's the thing. It's like anytime that you find yourself the new person in a situation where a bunch of people have been there for a while and they all know each other, and then you have to kind of figure out where you fit in with them. And that's another thing where, I had a little bit of the benefit of past experience because we had moved around a fair amount when I was a kid. So I had come into that situation at least a couple of times in my life as a kid where I was kind of the new person in the neighborhood. And I kind of, we had to kind of figure out like where I fit in with the rest of the neighborhood and what would happen. And, and that's the thing. It's like it's like anything else, you just, when you're the new guy, you got to figure out where you fit in and, who you can really work with and, who's going to help you out and who's not.
And I feel like that can go for everyone just kind of joining in, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's like when I joined my job too. I was kind of, the job that I have now, things have kind of evolved over the years because I've been doing this for like 16 years. So it's like as I've been there, I mean, there's a lot of people that I've known from the beginning, but of course there's also, a lot of people who've left over the years, and we've also, brought new people in, and there's always that kind of sense of like every time there's a new person of being able to bring them in and integrate them and kind of get a sense of where they're going to be able to fit in with how we do things, and we always manage to work that out. And I think that was kind of the way it was in the Air Force. There's just always that sense of like, when the new guys get, when the new person gets there, like who are they going to be to the rest of us and how do they fit in? And I kind of had this sense like that when I got there, that that they were just testing me. They were the way that they did with everybody. They were trying to kind of get that sense of who I was and where I would fit in and that kind of thing. And if I was going to be like a problem or not, let's face it, because people do make assumptions. I mean, that's the
Hmm.
thing, and I think guys make certain assumptions about women and about how we are and what we want and things like that. And it's like you can't let those guys get you down.
Hmm. Now, when you joined, like, how would you say the ratio was between male and female? Like, how many more men were there than women?
Oh, wow. It was a pretty big difference. I mean, I think it kind of depended on the job as far as that. I don't know like the overall percentage. Where I was, women were a very tiny minority, but that was because, that was really a job that a lot of women were wanting to go into because, it was a very like dirty fingernail grubby job, It was like so it wasn't like I mean, I didn't really care, but some gals might, I guess. But on the other hand, like if you went around to the offices, like the administrative offices, there were a lot of women doing that kind of stuff, because it was kind of, similar to like secretarial work, that kind of thing, administrative stuff like that. So, I mean, women had been really doing that kind of stuff for a very long time. So people wouldn't be surprised to like walk into an office and see a lot of women there. Or there was also like, we had I mean, the military really has its own healthcare system within it. And so if you had to go to the doctor's office or the hospital or whatever, you would see a lot of women working there too, which was another sort of traditional job that women had been able to hold for quite a long time, even by the time I went in. So I wasn't really surprised to see a lot of women in settings like that. As a matter of fact, I kind of remember being surprised when I went to my dentist because he had like male assistants. I was used to seeing like female assistants for dentists, so I was like that was actually more of a surprise to me than just about like than seeing a lot of women at some of the other places that you would have seen them.
Now, how would you say that, you know, just being retired now, has it improved you as a person, like looking back at it, or like what did you learn when you were going through this?
Well, I think well, just to clarify one thing, I didn't
Hmm.
actually retire.
Oh.
Okay, I was only in for the 4 years. But anyway, I think one of the things that helped with that was one of the things that it helped with was I think just that sense of paying attention to the details and just how important like some of these little things are that you don't even think about at the time, and just being able to like just follow through, and if you tell somebody you're going to do something, to do it. I mean, I was really there was just a lot of stuff that in my life before that I wasn't really learning. I didn't really have a lot of like there weren't a whole lot of good role models in my life, I guess. And it's like I don't want to get into the whole like personal drama that was going on, but I mean there was just I think that was one of the things that really helped me when I went in the Air Force was that there were a lot of there were a lot better role models there. I would watch how people did things. I mean, it wasn't just what they would say, it was what they did. And I realized like I started to learn just, how important all that was, just to really to do what you're going to say you're going to do, and to, just be willing to like keep your word, do your thing, get the job done and that kind of thing. And just, And then sometimes, like, I think another thing too that's really helped me is I wound up having to do a lot of stuff that I didn't like. My job really was unpleasant at times. It was very messy and just sometimes it was really hot. You know, like in the summer in Charleston, out on that flight line, it's just like it'd be like 100 degrees or something, or just. But the thing is, like, it was, even with all those moments, like the stuff needed to be done, and so it's like you kind of start thinking about, well, I've got this job, it needs to get done. I'm going to go do it whether I like it or not, just because it's the job. It's just the job. It doesn't even matter if I don't like it.
Now, I don't really know what else to ask you. Is there anything else that you want to add?
Well, I think one thing that's probably worth bringing up, because I mean you were looking for somebody who was during the Cold War, and I think I think it's kind of just worth looking at, like, how